Hello, I'm a day late discussing Red. When people think of DC Comics movies, they think Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, maybe even the Justice League. They don't think Frank Moses. Now I hear you say, who?
Jack Burton, me.
Actually, it's Frank Moses. And this is where the movie comes in. Inspired by the graphic novel of the same name by Warren Ellis and Cully Hamner, Red tells the story of one Frank Moses, retired CIA fixer. During his tenure as an active agent, Frank has been around the block a time or two.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe.
In retirement, well, he's having a hard time with it. So to help with the loneliness and boredom, Frank will tear up the occasional retirement check so he can call the pension service people to have someone to talk to. In fact, he has one particular person he likes to talk with, Sarah. Sarah, for her part, hates her job and dreams of travel and adventure. Unfortunately, she's stuck in a cubicle answering calls. The only fun in her life is reading trashy romance novels and talking with Frank. Frank asks her the title of the latest novel that she is reading because he will then read it as well, although I don't know if he talks about the novels with her, as we never see them talking about them. It may be something he does just to feel closer to her. During one of his calls, he tells her that he's going to be in town in a week, and leaves the question hanging. She says that it could be a really bad idea, but tells him to call her once he gets to town. Later that night, a hit squad comes to pay Frank a visit. Frank takes out the lead team with relative ease, and so the backup team decide to play it safe and they ventilate the house. They don't skip on the ammunition either. When they enter the house, Frank takes them out as well. Realizing that he's under surveillance, he heads to Kansas City to meet with Sarah, worried that someone is coming for her as well. Showing up a week early without notice, Frank and Sarah's first meeting goes about as well as you can imagine. Frank doesn't call ahead first and breaks into her apartment. It gets worse from there as he ends up having to kidnap her as another team shows up. Cut to when William Cooper setting up a scene to look like a suicide. Cooper, as we will soon find out, works for the CIA. He is a fixer. The CIA has a problem with someone, he fixes it. He gets a text from his handler and they meet. She has another job for him. Kill one Frank Moses, former CIA analyst. Frank and Sarah arrive in New Orleans. He sets her up in a motel room, tied to the bed unfortunately, and says he has to meet with someone, but will be back soon. Cut to Joe Matheson, living in a nursing home. Frank tells him that a wet team showed up at his house less than 24 hours ago. He has some fingers in a manila envelope for ID. Joe makes some calls and finds out that it was a South African hit team suspected of killing a New York Times reporter. Someone seriously wants Frank gone. Frank is at a loss. He's retired. Back at the hotel, Sarah manages to get free. And concurrently, Cooper has been to Frank's house and has gotten all the info he can from it. As he examines the evidence on a CIA jet, he discovers the torn-up check and then he sees that Frank has been talking with Sarah through phone records. While pulling the records, they are flagged with a 911 call currently happening in New Orleans. Cooper has the jet, then head for New Orleans. As Sarah is being helped at the hotel, once the medics are done with her, a police officer offers to give her a ride to the station, telling her that some feds want to talk with her. She gets suspicious and tries to leave, and he throws her against a squad car and drugs her. The officer is then knocked out. It's Frank. She asks if she's going to die, and he takes the needle and he tells her that she's just going to sleep for a while. They steal the police car and are driving away when Cooper's SUV plows into the side of the police car, sending them spinning. In a slick move, Frank gets out of the car and empties a clip into Cooper's SUV.
Not bad.
Frank then gets back in the police car and takes off. As they speed away, he calls in a report over the radio of an officer down, and the suspect looks like Cooper driving a black SUV. Cooper finds the car abandoned at an intersection just as multiple police cars pull up to arrest him. Frank takes Sarah to New York to talk with the mother of the reporter killed by the South African hit squad. Mom doesn't have much info, but she shows them a postcard that has a number on it. Frank recognizes it as a book ID number at a library and suspects it might be the college that she attended. They go to the library, find the book, and it's a list of names. Most of the people on the list are dead, but there are 3 still living. One is Frank, another is an old colleague of his, and another man. They are then off to track down Frank's old colleague. In the meantime, Cooper isn't too happy with his handler. He tells her that Moses isn't some analyst, as he obviously has skills for field work. She writes down a number and gives it to Cooper, telling him that this is a number for a file kept in a secret storage room, and it should have what Cooper needs. Cooper goes to the vault and he meets the record keeper, who gets Frank's file for him. Unfortunately, most of it is blacked out. But the record keeper tells him what red means. Retired. Extremely dangerous. And he tells Cooper that Moses retired because he got old. Down in Florida, Frank and Sarah arrive at Marvin Boggs' house. He's Frank's old colleague from the list. Marvin is a little high-strung.
In technical terminology, he's a loon.
After Frank convinces Marvin that he isn't there to kill him, Marvin leads him to his house. His actual house is hidden underground, the other is a decoy. Frank gives Marvin the list to see if he can help determine what the names have in common. Marvin says he'll have to check his files. While Marvin does that, Frank gives Sarah some history on Marvin. Turns out he was the subject of a secret government test that gave him LSD every day for 11 years straight.
No way.
Marvin finds the information he needs. It turns out that all the people on the list were at a village in Guatemala in 1981 to clean up a massacre, make it look like it never happened. The only other person on the list besides themselves is one Gabriel Singer, and he is who they are off to see next. As Sarah makes some calls to find out Singer's location, Marvin tells Frank it's a bad idea because the government is listening to all the phone calls and will identify her voice and track them to their current location. Marvin then notices a helicopter flying in the vicinity and takes down its tail markings. Sarah tells him that Singer will be in Mobile, Alabama tomorrow and that they can catch him at an air freight terminal. Once in Mobile, our band of heroes meet up with Singer to see what he knows. Singer tells him that the New York Times reporter came by, but that he told her nothing about Guatemala.
I know nothing. Nothing.
Frank tells Singer that everyone else on the list is dead and someone is after them too. Singer admits that he flew a CIA spook to the village to pick up another person. However, before he can name that person, the helicopter that Martin saw the day before shows up and a sniper kills Singer. Several more bullets come flying their way, and the others dive for cover. Cut to Cooper watching surveillance video of the helicopter shooting at the tower. He authorizes increasing firepower when sight of the target is lost. As the helicopter opens up with a machine gun, we see Frank and crew running between some cargo containers. They have several entertaining encounters with field agents on the ground, including a shootout between Marvin and an agent with an RPG. Thanks to all the smoke and heat blooms from the fires, they manage to get away. While driving around to figure out what to do now, Frank and Marvin decide that if the CIA is trying to kill them, then there's only one avenue for help: the Russians. Meet Ivan Simonov, a contemporary of Frank's who is still in the business. For the other side, of course. Frank tells Ivan that he needs whatever information the Russians have on the security at Langley. He's going to break into CIA headquarters. He sweetens the request by saying he will owe Ivan a favor. Next we see Frank and Sarah driving up to Langley. He's dressed as a general and she is a nuclear physicist. Hey, weirder things have happened. They make it to the vault and the records keeper is happy to see Frank after all these years. He gets the files for the Guatemala operation and then tells Frank that Cooper was here yesterday looking for Frank's file. Frank tells him thanks for all the help and then decides to pay a visit to Cooper's office. No doubt these two rational adults can come to a mutual understanding. Or maybe not. They fight for a bit, each hurting each other until Cooper goes for his gun and Frank bolts from the office, catching a round in the arm on the way out. Frank also managed to steal Cooper's ID badge during the fight, so Cooper is momentarily unable to move about the building. Frank then starts a fire using some cleaning chemicals. Under the cover of the fire alarm, Frank and Sarah manage to escape. Fortunately for them, Marvin has procured an ambulance for the escape, and even Joe has caught up to join the team. Joe's unable to get the wound to stop bleeding, however. With few options available to them, they decide to go to the Eagle's Nest and visit Victoria. She's a semi-retired shooter for the British.
Bond. James Bond.
Victoria patches up Frank, and they all gather to look at the Guatemala file. A fair amount has been redacted, but they do get a name of someone else involved. One Alexander Dunning. He's an arms dealer with ties to the CIA, and general bad guy. Frank says they need to talk to him, and Victoria says she wants to come along too. So the team goes to Dunning's house. Joe's dressed as an Idi Amin wannabe. Once inside, Frank and Marvin take out Dunning's bodyguards and then interrogate Dunning. They then find out Dunning helped to extract a young lieutenant from the massacre in Guatemala. That young lieutenant is named Stanton and is currently the Vice President of the United States. Dunning claims that Stanton was responsible for the massacre, and when informed by Dunning that a New York Times reporter was snooping around, ordered the hit on everyone on the list. The FBI begin to surround the house, and Cooper shows up to take charge. Cooper phones the house and talks with Frank, telling him that it's no use, there's no escape. Frank tells Cooper that the vice president is using the CIA to cover up a war crime. Cooper tells Frank that if he comes out peacefully, he guarantees his safety and that he will listen to what Frank has to say. As they're coming out, someone unauthorized shoots and kills Joe. Frank and Marvin make a break for it out the back, with Victoria giving them cover fire. While fleeing in the woods, Sarah trips and is captured by the feds, but everyone else gets away with Ivan showing up. Ivan takes them to a cabin he has nearby, and they have a drink to Joe's memory. Ivan then tells Frank a story about love, and that with a small dedicated group of friends, anything is possible. Cut to Sarah sitting in an interrogation room with a CIA goon telling her that no one knows that she's here and that he can do anything he wants to her. Outside the room, Cooper is watching. A guy comes in and tells Cooper that Frank is on the line and hands him a phone. Frank tells Cooper that he used to be young and ambitious like Cooper. And one thing that he learned from the job is that anything can be taken from you. To not make attachments. Because the thought of an enemy harming someone that you love is unbearable. The guy with Cooper writes down the address of the trace they had running, and it turns out that Frank is at Cooper's house, while Cooper's wife and kids are playing in the backyard. Cooper tells Frank that he knows Frank is at his house. Frank says, now you can understand what I'm talking about. He then tells Cooper to keep Sarah safe, or he will take everything that Cooper loves from him, and then kill him. Cooper asks Frank, what is he going to do? Frank replies that he's going to kill the vice president, and then he asks, what are you going to do? And that sets the stage for the finale. So what happens? Does Frank kill the vice president? Or does Cooper stop him? Well, check the movie out and see for yourself. The movie is mostly played straight, although not too seriously.
Old man, my ass.
It has some nice action and everyone gives a good performance. There are some plot conveniences, such as Marvin and Joe showing up in an ambulance to rescue Frank and Sarah at Langley, when there was no plan to set off an IED in a cleaning room. But, like I said, the movie doesn't take itself too seriously. It had a budget of $58 million and had a return of $199 million, so it was a moderate success. All in all, if you're looking for some light entertainment, this could be the movie for you. Until next time.